Well, it's Saturday, but guess what? I might make some enemies tonight. Why? We'll talk about it. But before we do that, you know what time it is. It's time for us to say those words before we can get things started here. So without further ado,
All right, you want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
yes, it is. It is showtime once again, and welcome to another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. I'm your host, Joe D. McPhee here, and tonight's topic may, if I could say it in this way, may take some people aback, but I will go ahead and say my disclaimer before we get started in that topic because I don't want people to twist my words as far as what we're about to get ready to discuss here. But before we can do that, we still got to do our normal things here, such as tell you about the fact that Stupid O'Clock still happens 1 hour into the show. I have a sneaky suspicion that we probably go the distance here, especially if we do get people into the chat and we start talking about the major topic here. Also, that Stupid O'Clock is also followed up by Last Man Standing, which starts at 1 a.m. on tonight here, Eastern Standard Time. Then you get a little bit of a respite till Monday for Nevermind the Furthermore, which is at 10 o'clock Eastern. And again, another mental note to self, I still have to change this graphic again. Comic Book Spectrum every Thursday, right here on this channel here. Don't miss out on Clyde, myself, Eric Hawkins, and Elaine Haygood. And you never know when Brian Rotman or Brian K. Morris may show up here. But that's Thursdays, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern here. And we look like we got some people here. Oh, there's Parallax Spectre. She is actually here. Good. Windbag Elaine, at times, but not. I wouldn't go there here. But I'm glad that you're here. But everybody knows what time it is here. Since we got that part out the way, it is now officially time for comic book pickups of the week. Okay, everyone, we got a small stack of books to go through for this week's new comic books for the week. We're going to start off with Nyoko the Jungle Girl #2. We got issue #2. I believe we have an issue 1 as well. I should say this is the further adventures of Nyoko the Jungle Girl. I believe we have an issue 1 and everything to that magnitude. We got some more X Factor issues. We got X Factor 48, 53, and a 240. All three are ones that are missing in the collection here. We got another copy of Doom Patrol 68. And we got some Bombshell, DC Bombshell Girls. We got issues 19 and 28. Well, actually, let me show you the covers here. 19 and 28. Yeah, I got them back in order. We got an older one. We got an older Jughead 225. This is one that I didn't have in my collection. And issue three. No, yeah, this is 331 of the Mighty Thor. It has Sif on the cover. That's the only reason why I got that. Another copy of Silver Sable #6, and then we got some other books here from our friends over there at Random Stacks. Something where I won a actual giveaway here. We got Harley Quinn #28, and we got a Ultimate Invasion #1. Yes, that is a foil #1 here. And we're going to take these over to storage as well as the stuff from last week because remember I did a live one last week, so that means the newer stuff from last week didn't go over. We're about to take care of all that stuff here, but stay tuned here because the live version we're about to get ready to talk about this week's topic. So back to you, Joe, in the main studio. And yes, back to me in the live studio here. And yeah, today was a good day in storage. At least now it's like I'm finally feeling like I'm accomplishing more stuff here. Sometimes I do have help, and just more along the lines here that getting things in order the way that I need them to be in order for I could put things in boxes and get them labeled correctly becomes rather tedious. And now since I got more titles that I know of that I have a complete run of, it's easier to put them in boxes and everything here. Let's go out to the chat before we get into the whole thing here. Oh, so Beanie and Lils is like, yeah, they like what I picked up and everything. So that's cool beans, or I shouldn't say that, but that's kind of great that they agree. But now we get into our topic of the evening, and I'm going to say this as a disclaimer. The topic of letting the hobby fund itself is not a dig at those who are actually doing it. There are people who give great sound advice for allowing the hobby fund itself, especially if you're setting out from the very beginning to do that. However, tonight's discussion is going to talk about a lot of the negatives. And the reason why, I'm bringing up the topic is that we need to put it out there on the table because some of the things that I'm going to bring up does affect a lot of things that the notion of having the hobby fund itself does not, if I could say in this aspect, does not afford the opportunity to allow the industry to grow. And I have talked about this to people in actual private chats, in passing conversations, and everything to that magnitude. I'm not bad mouthing the idea. I want that to be perfectly clear. I'm not bad mouthing the idea of having the hobby fund itself. That's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this is I'm going to point out some things that I'm seeing as of late that hinders the industry when you have this mentality, especially if you're dealing with more modern comics. And this is something that, we as collectors, as a community, start to need to talk to, bring these stuff up because it's a lot of things that I'm seeing that is just disappearing. And eventually, while some people are thinking that the hobby is dying, I don't see the hobby dying. I see that the hobby is going to become more or less like a rich man's hobby, like stamp collecting or coin collecting. That's more or less right now is a rich man's hobby because why? The average coin is not worth as much, especially it's been circulated. It's only certain ones and certain particular ones that you have to be looking out for. You have to make certain that you have X, Y, and Z, and you can't get your collection started until you know where to specifically get the unique ones out of what is considered typically common. Yep. I have to do the disclaimer first because you know how people are. People are so ready to cancel you for coming in mid sentence and coming in mid conversation. So with that disclaimer, I'm not picking on anybody who believes in having the hobby fund itself. I am a fan of that. I'm not going to talk down or talk bad about those who do. But I'm going to make you guys aware of some of the things that are happening as a result of it. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and start talking about it. What do you mean by having the hobby fund itself? It really depends on how you're trying to collect and how you're planning to evaluate your collection. Now, in most cases, when you look at other YouTubers or look at other people who are in the process of having the hobby fund itself, the greater majority are sticking with books that has already been proven or have a track record that has a, if I could say it in this aspect, that has a demand for them. Now, where the problem lies at with this here is that when it comes to more modern books, the formula doesn't really work all that well. Why? Because of the aspect of speculation. Some of the things in speculation just does not work well with modern books. It is a crapshoot. Even more so, let's just say if you got the speculation correct, the time frame for those to make money quickly, especially for those who do the quick flip, is so narrow that it becomes nerve wracking to make the money that you can to get the next book into the collection before you can actually keep the process going. One of the things that irks me more so than anything else here is a lot of these people who are going into this hobby of comic book collecting as investors. And then they come out here on YouTube and everything. They have their channels and they're up here, screaming to high hell about how the industry, the market is not great, this, that, and the other. It's more of a buyer's market right now, and my books are being devalued and this, that, and the other. And it's like I just can't make as much money. It's like that's because you set up, sat out, and set up your game plan for the quick flip, as opposed to a person like myself who is looking at long term and is looking at not 100% monetary value. And when I say not 100% monetary value, I'm talking about I'm not looking at honestly flipping the book anytime soon. And the reason why I say flipping the book anytime soon, it's not the fact that the book won't be sold. If I pass away, it's like who's to say that the people, my family or somebody, like sons, daughters, other family members won't sell the collection because again, they don't know what to do with it per se. And the first thing that's going to come to their mind is like, oh, let's sell it because it does have some monetary value to it. For me, that's later on down the line. This is going to be more so for the proven books that has history. But those who you see on YouTube, they're up here talking about more modern books. And when I say more modern books, I'm talking about from like Bronze Age to present. And a lot of those books have not truly stand the test of time for like some of the books that I have in my collection that I'm up here like, yeah, to me, a ASM 300 should not command as much money as it is. The only reason it does is because everybody and their grandma wants one. It's not because of anything particular dealing with the book. It's not really dealing with a particular storyline, even though, you have Black Suit Spider-Man on it, Venom story within it, but it's not the upper echelon of Venom stories. It could be considered a milestone issue because not every comic book goes 300 issues. It is what it is. Ultimate Fallout 4, another example. First appearance of Miles Morales, but his first appearance was not in a pivotal story per se. People just want it because it's the first appearance, and there's an actual demand for it based upon movies and everything to that magnitude. And it seems like moviegoers love the character, and for some reason, those moviegoers are now trying to follow the books. That's a good sign of growth there. That's understandable. But at the same time, we got all these other books. And again, like I said, I'm not, pointing fingers at any particular type of collector. But let's look at Something's Killing the Children. Something Killing the Children, number one, to me, is not worth as much money as it is, only because of printings were short printed. Okay, short printed. There's a demand for that makes it a artificial demand for that first printing. It makes an artificial demand for the second printing. It makes artificial demand here. The fact of the matter is there's enough copies of issue number one out there that you could get an issue number one, read it, and enjoy it, and continue on. Is it really worth the upper echelon money that's getting as of right now? Is there speculation for new people who are trying to get into the hobby? Not so much. And that's kind of like the reason why I said the hobby funding itself might be a problem. Because if you got brand new people who are trying to start their comic book collection, and yes, I have tried to start a YouTube series for that aspect of comic book collecting. And one of the first things that I had to, pump the brakes on is that my very first episode, my very first 1 minute episode was like just find a book, buy it, enjoy it. The reason I put it out that way is because episode 2 is going to be now, since you got something that you like, you got to make a decision. How do you truly want to collect it? And this is the thing that if most of the conventional wisdom that's out there in these social media outlets is pointing people to have the hobby fund itself, then you want to mislead a lot of people because sometimes people just want to read a good story. And since the story is episodic, you're going to have a better understanding of, okay, I'm going to buy this one story. It may not be worth much to other people, but it should be worth enough to me to continue to spend my money to buy into it. And it gets to the point now that we're seeing a shift in paradigm of the type of collector. We're getting more and more collectors that will collect that number one, hoping for that big payday, as opposed to collectors who are going into titles, enjoying the titles, reading the stories, and talking about the stories to get more people in, to bring newer people into the hobby, to bring newer readers to these books. That aspect of having a hobby fund itself is detrimental to that second type of collector. It's very much detrimental because if I'm only focusing on those books that may bring me a dividend, especially on a quick flip, I might be missing out on titles and stories that I might love for generations and talk about and get other people hooked on. And that is a major problem that not too many people are talking about. nowadays in the community. One of the things that was mentioned in a couple of posts that I've been reading is I had another creator friend of mine, ask the question of like, well, who's actually doing reviews of comics now? Because again, they're a creator, they're putting out new books every so often, and they want their books reviewed. Again, places like Bleeding Cool and Comics Beat and everything is not going to review every last comic book that's out there that's coming out. They're not going to do it. It's impossible. That where people like you out there that's watching the show, those that are in the chat, people like me who have a YouTube channel would need to take that extra step to be like, okay, this is what I'm reading. This is what I like. Let me tell you more about the story. Now, if I only worry about the monetary value of what the book is worth and how much I could get for it on a quick flip for I could fund the next couple of books that I may want to get, I would not care about a review. I would not even read about a story. I would be more along the line, well, who's the artist on here? Does that artist have a big enough following or fan base where I could go to their audience and try to flip this book? Meanwhile, you as the creator is up here is like, I want people to read my stuff. I want people to love the story of what I actually create, not to buy my $80 tier on a crowdfunding campaign and then go out to eBay and try to flip it for 3 to 4 times as much. It it makes that type of collector breaks that paradigm of what most creators want to have. They want to have a readership. Granted, money makes the world go around. There's no argument about that. And I'm not saying people shouldn't be making money. That's the furthest thing from my mind. But at the same time, you're holding information back. You're preventing others to discovering great books that could be out there because no one want to talk about the actual stories anymore. They want to talk about monetary gain. We got a couple of comments here. Okay, I have their undivided attention. And it's like, yeah, and also, and the thing about it is that I'm making great points about this only because one, I'm a comic book creator. I've been publishing for getting close to 20 years now. Granted, I don't have a whole bunch of issues behind me, and most people are up there. It's like, well, you've been publishing for 20 years. How many issues have you published? I've published close to like what 20 something different issues here across 3 different titles, not including the failed attempt at a novel series, another creator-owned series, which again, the person who created has full rights and privileges, and they're still working on it. And I gave them, the keys of how to publish on their own, where they no longer need a person like I have been doing that for so long that I'm actually seeing these things in a different light. And then I have been collecting comic books for getting close to 4 decades now. Yeah, I'm old. I'm old, but it's close to 4 decades of collecting comic books and seeing the changes and seeing what's really out there and understanding what's going on. And to be quite honest, it's like I see myself almost like a dinosaur now because I would go into a lot of these whatnot shows, the claim shows online, and here we go with the same books over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Or here, buy this investor book, buy that investor book, buy this investor book, buy this one over here because this one is now getting a bump because of this speculation or that speculation. And I'm up here with like, only thing I want to do is just complete this collection over here. Do you have any of these books? And to have a seller kind of like shun you or to be like not interested in selling you those type of books, because again, I'm not against people make trying to make their money, but the books that some people might be interested in may be the way to keep them as a customer, to keep that person happy. They might actually be like, oh yeah, this guy over here, they had all the books that I was looking for. Maybe they will bring newer people to you to be like, hey, if they got this stuff for me, maybe they got the stuff for you. And that's kind of the things that people have to look at when coming back to this concept of having the hobby fund itself. I mean, it's not easy selling a book. That's the whole thing. It's not easy selling people something that you love, because a lot of people may not be into it. Again, I could tell you all day, every day that even though Amazing Spider-Man 300 is over four figures, not everybody's going to be like, oh wow, I'm going to give you what the book is worth. Let alone be like, why I want to buy just one comic book, especially at that type of price. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any logical sense for the life that they live. But we got more comments here. We got more comments. Let me get everybody in. Let me get everybody in. Yeah, boo, same books. Yeah. I mean, but it is what it is here. Stupid spec investing is stupid. Again, it's not about poo-pooing the aspect of having the hobby fund itself. It's just too much focus on the monetary value. We're in a hobby that, to me, first thing that comes first should be the story that's being told. Granted, there's a lot of bad stories being told. I'm not going to lie, especially in this modern age. There's a lot of bad stories being told. I'm not going to lie about that. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, this one book over here by DC gets that financial bump because it's about to have a Netflix series. Who's to say that people who watch Netflix, especially that one series, are going to all of a sudden convert and become comic book collectors? It doesn't work that way. A comic book reader and a TV watcher are two separate audiences. What you hope for is crossover. You want that comic book reader to cross over to watch the TV series, and you want the people who watch the TV series to cross back over to become a comic book collector. It's a kind of like a two-way street here. You hope that there's, traffic going both ways. A lot of times it's not. People who read the comic only read the comics. People who watch the TV show only watch the TV show. However, there's a greater chance for the comic book reader to watch the TV show than the TV show watcher to go and read a comic book. Why? Where our culture is just that way. Our culture now is that we don't read as much. For us to read, we have to truly enjoy the topic or the stories that are being told. And that one thing is being missed across the board when it comes to comics. Why? Because nobody is telling people about the great adventures anymore that is in these so-called 16 to 24 page stories now, or even bigger pages, depending on what you're picking up here. But let me keep going here. I don't want I want people to interject into the topic as well here. Yeah, I'm a completionist of runs, not spec so much. I like spec when I could, when I really like a run. And that's the thing. It hurts you as a completionist because if everybody's so focused on two issues out of that run, it brings down the whole value of that run. I mean, perfect example here. Let's take Sensational She-Hulk 40. That book is skyrocketed for the wrong reason. Nobody cares about the story that lies within it. They only care about the cover, and it brings down the rest of the series because of it. What was the other one? Sensational She-Hulk 55 or 56, the so-called Immortal She-Hulk issue. She wasn't Immortal She-Hulk in that issue. It was the first time that she was brought back to life, and the person who brought her back to life mentioned that she's possibly immortal. Then all of a sudden, we got several years later, Immortal She-Hulk #1, where it goes back through the history of every time that she dies, and it points back to that issue where the first time that the She-Hulk actually died. Doesn't necessarily makes that issue a key issue to have, or the first time that she was quote unquote immortal, but people who take the story out of context just to inflate the spec on it, it's not helping it because it deflates the rest of the run, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like I don't like Deadpool. I don't care how much money the movies made. I still don't like the books. The movies I like and have bought the Blu-rays to support it. I mean, that's the thing. You like Deadpool in the movies, but you as a moviegoer were not translate into buying the comics. However, you got a lot of Deadpool fans who are comic book readers that went to go see the movie. The thing about it is, it's easier for a comic book collector to cross over into movies than movie watchers to cross back over to become comic book collectors. And those who spec on movies need to understand that you're gambling playing Russian roulette. You're taking that, hoping that when you spin that chamber, that you don't come up with a dud, that the bullet fires. That's what you're hoping for, not the other way around. You want people to catch on to come back over to it. But even if that happens, guess what? That book that you love now is going to skyrocket. The book that you love, the series that is in, guess what? It's going to cost more money. Because why? Bean counters. I hate to use the term bean counters, and those who have not watched the show. When I mention bean counters, I'm talking about accountants and marketeers for these companies that publish comics. The bean counters are now going to be like, oh, we got an influx of people coming in to now buy the books. Guess what? We're now going to mess with print runs. We're now going to mess with variant covers. We're going to mess with all this other stuff to keep these people interested to keep buying these books. It's not a bad thing when TV watchers or movie watchers cross over to comics. But at the same time, the way that these books are being marketed now is another detriment, which also makes it 10 times harder to make the hobby fund itself too. And like I said, it's a deadly game when you play that whole speculation on TV and movies. It's deadly. It could make you a whole bunch, but 90% of the time you're going to lose. It's a losing game. But yet you got all these people still playing it, and then coming out to YouTube and complain about, oh, I lost so much money on this book, and it was highly speculated about how this, that, the other, and the movie flopped. Why were you speculating on the movie for? Why are you speculating on the comic because of the movie? Unless you have some type of crystal ball to say, oh, crystal ball, can you show me if the audience for for let's just take Agatha all along is going to come back and buy the first issue of Fantastic Four where Agatha Harkness first appears. Why do it? There's no guarantee. There is no guarantee in it. But let me get back. Let me get back to the comics because, like I said, it's I don't want to be a one person conversation tonight here. Um, hey, Aaron, so Aaron is here. Yeah, for $1,000, you could get a ton of books for your favorite run. Yeah, exactly. Yep. What's up, Parallax? Yep. Hey, how is it you can stream when you have less than 100 subs? Well, Aaron, I guess you haven't caught up to where I've been. Technically, I just regained my channel. I had over 250 subscribers prior to me losing my old university email. My university email was tied to my original YouTube channel. So I lost maybe about 3 to 4 years worth of videos. So I had close to like 250 to 250 300 videos, subscriber base of over 250 people, had my own unique name and everything, and we were moving more and more closer to the whole thing about monetization. It had watch hours that was normally somewhere about like 20 to 30 watch hours a month, stuff to that magnitude. But it just, like I said, one day my university said, hey, on this date we're going to cut away your university email, and they did not give me enough time to move all the emails over. I tried to reach out to YouTube to let them know it's like, hey, my university did this to me, I don't have access to my channel anymore. Here's the new email address that I'm using here, here's the new channel, can I access this stuff? And they was like, well, the only way that you could do this is to have your university give you rights and permissions just long enough for you to be able to reconnect your channel. University won't allow me to do that. So I'm back to square one. So hopefully that answers your question here. Yeah, I'm here bothering Joe and his adopted niece is Aaron. Nice. And then, yeah, I wait a couple of years for the modern Doctor Doom comics to come back down, because it will. It's a con, my friend. It's not just a con. It's supply and demand, but it is rigged supply and demand, and that's what I don't like about this concept of having a hobby fund and the way that some people take speculation. It's fake supply and demand. Just because you have one or two people who are willing to pay big dollars for those books does not equate that everybody is going to be in demand for it. And when you put it out there for people to buy them, it's not going to be like their highest priority, especially for us that have been collecting for the longest time. And when I say for the longest time, I'm talking about people who have been collecting comic books for more than a decade. A lot of people are going to be like, well, I can hold off on that. I'm more concerned about getting this run completed, or I wanted, to look into that run, or I'm interested in this title now. And I'm not going to be, swept into the hype behind like a Doctor Doom because of Robert Downey Jr. or all of these other things that's coming down the pike because of movies and everything to that magnitude, or first appearances because the character got their own TV series and everything. That doesn't really appeal to me as a old school collector. Reason being is because I understand the fact that comic book readers are easier to convert to television watchers and movie watchers than a movie watcher or a television watcher to a comic book collector or a comic book reader. So for you to tell me it's like, oh, there's going to be, after all this talk about it's not going to be a season two, and now all of a sudden Variety says there's going to be season two of She-Hulk. It's not going to make me go out there and buy every last She-Hulk book. Will I fill in my gaps that I have for anything that's She-Hulk related? Yes. But I'm not going to go out there and try to be, with breakneck speed to try to get a Savage She-Hulk #1. That's just not a part of who I am and everything. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I read them, I read them when I can. That's the whole thing. Infamous Infamous Iron Man #1 was $15 on day one of San Diego Comic Con. On day four, it was $75. And the reason why it was $75 is because of the announcement. Now, why is it $75? I could tell you exactly why. Because comic book collectors who subscribe to the notion of having the hobby fund itself got wind of that, hoping that because Robert Downey Jr. is playing Doctor Doom in the movie, that because he is a great actor, that it would allow moviegoers to come into the hobby to want to read Doctor Doom related stories. Guess what? There's too many of them in Marvel Universe history, which means that there's multiple titles that has Doctor Doom up in it. Where do you start? People flock to Infamous Iron Man because of, oh, guess what? I can make quick, fast money on a quick flip if I get this Iron Man issue where it's half Iron Man, half Doom, get Robert Downey Jr. to sign it, get it graded by a grading company like CGC or CBCS, put it out there on eBay, boom, I got a quick $250 to maybe $1,500 easily with other fellow comic book collectors who are of the same ilk as me. That's the reason why I went to $75. And I believe you are correct. It should be always a $15 book. But we're creating that fake demand. People are not. People who are in the hobby is creating that fake demand and making other people believe that there's other people outside of other collectors wanting these books. And that's a major problem. Like last night, they had the Jump Rope issue of She-Hulk, which is issue 400, over $200, and it needed a press. And even if it needed a press, there's no guarantee that it's a 9.8. So at that point, 9.8, big jump from $400 something to maybe $200 something for like a 9.6 to like a 9.2. If it goes below, if it gets to that 9.0, it's barely $150 book. And if it gets lower than that, it becomes desperation. It's like how desperate are you as a collector to have a She-Hulk #40 in your collection? It's just, it is what it is. This is one of the reasons why I kind of doing this show to tell of the evils of a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying if you got like a X-Men #1 for 1963 and your house about to be foreclosed on and everything, no, sell that #1, sell it, get what you can. With that, having that one book, pretty much everything else in your collection is like, that's what the true meaning of having the hobby fund itself. You probably bought that #1 for pennies on the dollar. Now, especially if it's greater than a 5.0, that's a couple of, not even a couple, that's a couple of tens of thousands of dollars. Pennies on the dollar, making you tens of thousands of dollars. that's the aspect of having a hobby fun for itself. That's the true aspect of it. But with modern books, people lose that aspect that I just brought up, especially when it comes to like the jump rope episode, issue 40 of Sensational She-Hulk. Yeah, do you have the? Actually, I do. Actually, I have a full run of Sensational She-Hulk, but I don't know. Like I said, it's like I'm not trying to bring out any of the slaps and stuff because, like I said, I still have my newsstand and my direct edition for She-Hulk 40. I think out of all of them, I think the direct edition. Let me check my CLZ app. I think my direct edition is like a 9.4 graded, but I'm not trying to sell it. I could sell it right now and be happy with $400 and something dollars, but I'm not going to do that because people don't know why the book people don't know why the book should be valued much less than that. And everybody fall for the crude joke here. Yeah, my direct edition is a 9.2, so I got a 9.2 graded on that. So it is what it is. When speculators are looking in one direction, I try to clean up where they're not looking. Yeah, and Aaron, just to let you know how I started this stuff off here, it's like I started off with a disclaimer. It's like I'm not poo pooing those who do the speculation. Make your money. But I'm also saying, also, it's like the stuff that I would speculate on, and I have told maybe a handful of other people of books that I would speculate on, and it's slowly bringing them dividends now. And the reason I tell them that is because I understood what the story is in those books. And eventually it's going to catch people's attention later on down the line. And even now, I keep kind of like a tight lip on some of this stuff here. I have told Parallax some of the stuff that I have speculated on. I have told some of the other sellers, and who now is like, oh yeah, that $2 book that I sold to you now, I'm coming back and looking at it on eBay. I could sell it now for 20. And I was like, why do you think you could sell it for 20? And it's like, I really don't know. And I'll tell them, it's like, the reason why you can sell it for 20 is because people are slowly realizing what the story entails in that book. If nobody reads the book, they don't know what's truly in it. Therefore, they don't care. And they just hope that the book gets old enough where it will graduate from quarter bin, 50-cent bin, and dollar bin to be some money. And that's the weirdness with everything here. Yes, Aaron, that's what I do. Yet, go get all the Doom books. I'll go get JLA Classified. That's another good series. See, while they're getting the Doom books, and Parallax can vouch for this. While they're getting the Doom books, guess what I'm picking up? I'm picking up First Comics Jaguar. I'm picking up things like that. I'm picking up FemForce. I'm picking up books that have some good stories up in them that I'm actually enjoying. And I'm completing my runs of it. Because if I complete my runs before the amount of issues that's out there runs very, very low, it drives up my collection, the value of my collection, that much more. While everybody's up here trying to get, the first Gambit issue, it's like I went to storage. I was like, I got 3 of them. I haven't had any of them graded, but they're not all in the best condition. But you know, a good press, and pressing it here, there, and everywhere, I could pretty much guarantee that at least I have one that's at least a 7.5 or greater. I don't always look for that 9.8. That's the other thing. the aspect of 9.8 or better. It's a good thing to have, but is it necessary if you are reading the books? If you're reading the books, it doesn't matter. That's one of the reasons why, if I, again, I need to start back to doing my short series of comic book collecting. Because one of the things I always tell people is like, if you really want to get serious here, you always buy 2 to 3 copies. And the reason why you try to do 2 to 3, if you could afford it, because you have one to read, one to grade, and a backup. If you can't do 3, then do 2. Then that way you guarantee to have one to read, one to get graded. And that readable one is the more expendable one. So if you needed to sell something right away, you sell the readable one first and hope that the graded one gains value later on for you. But again, another aspect of having the hobby fund itself. But it's just weird. It's all weird in that aspect. I think I lost track here. Yep, it's like, well, I'm glad that you can stream, buddy. I feel that you would grow your channel with no problem, though. Yeah, I mean, I've been here for a couple of years, so it's about getting the word out there. For me, it's not about showing up on YouTube and doing the shows more so than advertising that I'm out here. Going out to like Facebook, Instagram, uh, Twitter and everything and telling people it's like, here, watch this issue, or going out to like my mailing list for those who buy my comics to say, here, watch this issue of From the Death Sort of Small Press Publisher, or here, watch this issue of episode of Comic Book Spectrum, or here, and even and one of the things that I love doing when the networking is right, it's like a person like you, Aaron. I'll be like, hey, check out Aaron. Aaron's about to get ready to sell $2 comics over here. He might have something that you like here. Catch his latest claim sale at this time. And I put the link out there in like a newsletter to the people who buy my books. And it'd be like, hey, if Joe's saying that this guy is okay, maybe I should check him out. And he did say $2 books. It's like, that's within my price range. That's what true community does. But sometimes we just don't do that. We just don't. Rigged. Yeah, I bet Aaron wants some rigatoni with meatballs while he's listening to Eleanor Rigby and tries to sell Liefeld a brigade to customers. Oh, wow. Because dumbass key collector guys are like, oh my god, first Iron Man Doom. But again, different generations. And fortunately, you, Parallax, you didn't fall into that generation that is key collector base, or came into the hobby where key collector was a thing. Collecting keys is only essential to those who start out trying to have the hobby fund itself. That's key. That's paramount. It's a must. For those who fell in love with the genre and love the stories, it's an afterthought. It'd be like, oh, I have all these comics. Let me figure out which ones are considered keys. And even with key collector, I look at what they consider keys. I'd be like, that's not really a key. That's just like, oh, first appearance of such and such. But he's not important, or she's not important in the whole bigger storyline or the bigger series of this. That character is not important. Why are you highlighting this character? But again, we don't govern what is key and what is not keys as readers for some reason. Fantastic Four 5 is the Doom key, period, in the story. I agree. Well, yeah, I agree. I bought some books from Aaron today for $2 because there are books I wanted and needed. Yep. So did I. And he got paid today too. He also got paid today too. So, yep, exactly. Rigatoni, yeah, when we collect with our hearts, then we don't fall for the BS, and that's a good thing. But you know what? It makes me wonder why people don't collect with their hearts anymore. Why don't people collect what they like? It's maddening when I see people who have these investment channels for comics. The first thing that they would tell people is don't collect what you like. And it's always preference in question marks. They put in question marks. But here's the thing, to be a comic collector, you have to collect what you like. Why am I going to collect something that only going to make me money? If I'm going to collect something that's going to make me money, I would try to invest in something that would make me the most money in either the shortest period or the most money over several years. Comic books ain't it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's kind of like a pipe dream. It's like, in that aspect, because not everybody's going to get like, and I don't like using the word grail because a grail book to me is not going to be a grail book to you, Aaron. And it's not going to be a grail book to Parallax. It's just going to be what it is. A grail is something that you truly love, but yet you got these investors like, oh, collect these grails. It's like, but I don't love X-Men. I don't love Spider-Man. I don't love Superman. I don't love half of these books that you're putting out there as these things that we have to collect to have a valuable collection. This is why, with all the books that I have, I'm slowly making that change from, okay, possible resale to why not do a museum? Why not have like, museum displays and everything to talk about a lot of the history and the stories behind it and everything for later use. I read an article in the New York Times. Shout outs to Daphne Lage here. She was the one that brought that article to my attention. That was in the New York Times not too long ago, talking about the Peonies, the creators of ElfQuest, and the fact that Columbia College had to take their complete library. And when I say the complete library, we're talking about all the pages that they ever created, sketches and everything, issues and all this other stuff to archive it. Reason being is because they looked at what was going on and they was looked at it for the simple fact that if they die, their legacy would disappear because most family members, even with them, would not know what to do with that stuff as a whole. So all the artwork, all the different stickers, the designs and everything, the pages that they drew, the extra issues that they might have stored, all of that would have been lost. But luckily, Columbia College took all that stuff in, and they're going to be a repository for everything that's ElfQuest, which is a good thing. Now, what if we as collectors started taking that mentality? It would still make our collection valuable, and make it valuable in the standpoint that we're preserving history. We're preserving something that is ingrained in the culture of pop culture. It is something that can be shared, and you could build museums and displays and pop-up events around it. It would be worthwhile in the long run to do it, as opposed to a quick fix financial. But again, if you follow that road, it's a longer road to go through. It may not be as profitable up front, but at the tail end, you gain so much more. But that's just me. That's just me. But let me get back to the comments here. We got rigatoni. We're still talking about the rigatoni. It's like, I have it. I'm being a dubronish. Not really. Not really. My favorite book of all time is oh the champion of the universe, and Ben Grimm almost beating the champion of the universe with his power gem by switching up to wrestling. Yes, I mean, champion of the universe comes down, beating up all the different superheroes, and Ben almost beat him because instead of trying to fight him outright, he switched up in the middle of the fight to go to wrestling. Yeah, Fem Force, Jaguar, Doom Patrol, and again, I could add more. It's like, books that people don't look at anymore. Challengers of the Unknown. I'm now getting into Modesty Blaze. I just and you was there when I picked up the copy of the Hunger Dogs. This is actually right here behind me. This is the graphic novel that I'm reading right now. Jack Kirby's The Hunger Dogs. I'm actually reading these books. I'm not just collecting them to be like, oh, see what I got. This is a sought after book. It's like, no, I'm reading these stories. I'm enjoying these stories. I actually, get a kick out of them. Yeah, I'm a good judge of character, and you're all right. Awesome, man. Thank you. Yeah, I hit the notification bell. I like your style for real. I gotta go now. Well, thanks for dropping by here, Aaron. I enjoyed the fact that you're here and participated in the conversation, and that's what I do on Saturdays. I try to have an interactive conversation with people. Just because I'm a creator and just because I'm a collector as well doesn't mean that we can't get together and talk about stuff that's going on in the industry, our likes or dislikes, about how people are doing whatever, and just the way the whole industry is going at this point. I don't see comics really dying, but what I'm seeing now is that it's going to go, it's going to go the old school way. It's going to go way of the dodo, and it's going to become like one of those things where it's going to be like a rich man's hobby, because if everybody goes to this modern speculation aspect, the greater majority of the people will get priced out of it, and nobody wants to come into a hobby knowing good and well that it's going to take several hundreds or maybe thousands of dollars to get started. There's no fun in that. There's no fun in that, because if it takes hundreds or thousands of dollars to get started up in it, guess what we're going to do? We're going to start penny pinching. We're going to start looking at what can we do to get the biggest bang out of our buck. There's no fun in that. The whole idea of comics was entertainment. We're supposed to have fun. We're supposed to be reading great stories and enjoying great stories, and then coming back telling others like, "Hey, I read this great story called The Hunger Dogs and whatnot." But I don't know how to change people's minds to get back to that aspect here. And even with me writing three different comic book series, of which one that surprised me, which is the Primetime Saturday Night, which is people don't realize I literally write episodes of things like Monday Night Raw with my own characters. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to create all these different bouts, to create all the different storylines and everything behind it. And I have now a better appreciation for what I see on television because of it. But it's just one of those things. But it's supposed to be fun. And for me to put out, 50 plus pages of a, 5 to 6 match bouts, plus, behind the, interviews and behind the scenes type scenes and everything to like that magnitude, to mimic like you're watching AEW Dynamite or old school, WCW. It's a task. It's a task. It's not something that's easy, but when I do it right, I see the fun behind it. I see other people having fun. And that's a cool thing to have, to be a creator and seeing people and yourself having fun. Let's see, that's what I'm talking about. Don't collect stuff you don't like. We're all different. Exactly. Yeah, this is great, Joe. It's like you're real logical. I like it, man. Okay, gotta go for real. We'll watch you on the rewrite. Not a problem. I thank you so much for it. Oh my goodness. I'm so happy that he's here. John, how's the hand? I'm so glad that you're back. I'm so glad that you're back drawing. I just love how you do the facial expressions and everything for your characters as you tell your story for Bloodwing Angel. I've been enjoying what you've been posting as of late here. Yeah, just spending my retirement creating my Bloodwing Angel without being. Yep. Yep. I mean, and again, you get to create the stuff the way that you wanted to create it, and you're having fun with it. You don't have some editor behind your back talking about, no, we have to follow this formula, this, that, or the other. You get to create it the way you want to create it. You're having fun with it, and you're enjoying how other people are enjoying it. And that's the key thing about being an awesome creator, is when you and your readers are having fun all at the same time. Yeah, bean counters looking over. Yep, you get to do it the way that you see fit to tell your story. And maybe we need to go back to the whole thing about more independent creation. And I don't say independent creation as far as, oh, everybody has to give up all this corporate money and everything. It's like, no, maybe we need to go back to the day and age where it's like everybody has the same level of competition to put it at everything on an even playing field. We don't have an even playing field anymore in comics anymore. It's like certain companies have the seed money to put their books out there further because the marketing dollar is what it is. And to be quite honest, marketing is the fastest way to lose money in a business, because every dollar that you spend hyping up something does not necessarily mean that somebody's going to come and buy the product. It's just, it is what it is. Yes, Parallax meet John, John meet Parallax. Now, those who don't know who John Celestri is, only thing I would say this in short sentences here. Think Star Wars Christmas special, the animator of Boba Fett. Think about Space Ace and Dragon Slayer. He animated some of those scenes in those video games and a lot of other ones. And if you're a moviegoer, think about Rock and Roll. That's the guy. That's the guy right there. Him and I are friends here. Yep, that's the guy. I say I don't come out here to name drop because that's not who I am. I want people to come out here and enjoy what we do, which is we write stories, we draw comics, and if we get a chance to, we collaborate together and we do things together. Yeah, the bean counters that said classic Joe Lyons. Yep. Oh yeah, that's who he is. Rock and Roll is highly underrated. Yes, it is. Oh, you are. Go ahead, if you can, go ahead and drop the link for that, because I want people to come out there and see you, John, to see what you're doing on your web comic, because that's the key thing. It's like you have, people, like I said, I want people to come back to old school. And the reason I want to say come back to old school, I'm not saying don't poo-poo what's coming out now, but coming back to old school means more along the lines. Think about what we're creating. Is this the best way to present these stories? Are we creating the right type of stories that people will love and enjoy now, or are we just pumping out whatever just to keep a title alive? That's a different story. That's the difference here. Yeah, I mean, I think he will autograph some stuff here. I think on his last crowdfunding campaign, I think he has some autographed Boba Fett. He did some autographed Boba Fett drawings. But once he puts the link in, I'll go ahead and make certain that people know where to get his to access his web comic here. But I'm glad that he's here, and I'm glad that he's a part of the conversation too. And that's the key thing here. And I think this is one of the reasons why that the whole concept of having the hobby fund itself, it's maybe the wrong attitude to have. I'm not saying don't have some of the aspects fun itself, but the whole thing about it is that if you live by that, especially with the way modern comics are nowadays and the way speculation is nowadays, you will lose your shirt quick, fast, in a hurry. And then the last thing is that you will never discover anything new. You are always relegated to what is hip or trendy at the time. You will never have a chance for discovery. You will never have a chance to be like, oh, yeah, the speculators are saying this, but I like what this guy over here is trying to do. I can't buy his book because his book is not going to be as valuable as this one over here that is highly speculated that if I get it graded, get a 9.8, instead of holding on to it, I could come right back and sell it for like $250, $300, make my money and cut, and move on to the next book. But by doing that, I miss out on a chance of reading something that I might enjoy. And by the time I get back to it, it might already be dead. And when I say dead, I'm not talking about, something bad happening to the creator. I'm saying dead as far as it only maybe went one issue or two issues and the creator gave up because there was no fan base for it. Why? Because everybody's looking for the speculated book. I mean, it's a harsh landscape out there now. It's too harsh of a landscape. And collectors as a whole need to understand all options that they have now. And when you got more YouTube channels out here saying, don't buy what you love or focusing on having the hobby fund itself, they forget the aspect of, hey, I want to be entertained. I want to read what I collect. I'm not 100% in this for the monetary gain. If I was in it for the monetary gain, there are definitely other investments that I could put money into that will allow me to afford a bigger return on my investment. But that's the key thing here. Yeah, we got a chat. Okay, cool. Oh, I'm calling it a night. Okay. Uh make if you can, oh well, if you can, if you want me to do it on this show to highlight where they could reach your web comic, go ahead and put that in before you leave. If not, I'll catch it when we chat on direct messaging, and then that way I could include it in newer episodes from the Desk of a Small Press Publisher here, John. So let me know either way. So if you go ahead and put it in the chat now, I can make certain that people know where to find you. If not, make certain that I get it when we talk via DM, and then that way I can make certain that people come out to see your work here. And again, people need to read Bloodwing Angel. I mean, to give you a short history of Bloodwing Angel, John originally created this as a novella, and now he's converting it into more of a graphic novel storytelling that is broken up into several different issues. And it is a kick-ass story. And excuse the language, but it is a great story behind it. And I enjoy it. I actually have several issues of that in actual comic book form. And I've been following the story as he been creating it. And like I said, I just, you know, people come to me with the weirdest ideas and notions and everything. They're up here. I was like, why do why do you like this? It's like, this is something that probably won't sell in the modern age. It's like, look at the artwork. It's like, there's nothing wrong with the artwork. The artwork is telling the story the way that it needs to be told, but it's not like everything else. Why it need to be like everything else? Why does everything have to be cookie cutter? Why does everybody, it's like, why are everybody flocking to these major artists of now that really don't know how to tell a story per se in sequential pages? We got all these great artists that could do great pinups and covers, but there's not too many people that can do sequentials. When you got a person like over here, like John, that could do sequentials like no other. But the first thing they would be like, well, this is not the art style that I like. I want something that's a little bit more grim and greedy, and something that's more modern. It's like it looks a little bit cartoony. It's like, but that's not the whole point of it. The first thing that you should be asking yourself as a comic book reader is, does the artwork tell a story? One of the things, and let me grab I want to grab something real quick here off of my computer, so just bear with me for 1 second here, because I'm going to prove this point. I'm going to prove this point here, and again, if it sounds like I'm ranting a bit, maybe so, maybe I need to, but I don't like ranting. I like having open discussions about stuff, but I don't like ranting. I really don't. But the reason why I bring this stuff up the way that I do is because it makes for interesting conversation and everybody learns from it. I don't do these shows just to be like, oh, I'm the authority, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, no, we're going to all learn together. I might find something out that I don't know 100% everything about it, but I know enough to, make other people aware. And then somebody could come back. It's like, hey, Joe, but you might be forgetting about this. And then we, discuss it and we talk about it, and we get into the aspect of, oh, maybe there's something deeper. Maybe there's something, a little bit more to it than what we let on. Maybe there's something that we haven't thought about as of yet. That's the reason why I brought up this conversation about the hobby funding itself, because there's a lot of stuff about how people bring up that aspect, but yet nobody talks about the detriment. Everybody talks about how people are making so much money, but nobody's talking about, well, what is it called? How is it hurting to everybody? How is it hurting everybody else? How is it hurting creators? How is it helping bring new readers in? How is it faring across the board for all titles? It's not. But we need to have that open dialogue. We need to have that common sense moment where we could say, hey, this is not making sense here. Now, what I'm bringing up now, and let me go ahead and do this here. And this is where it comes back to where I was saying here about the art telling the story. This is the last 2 pages that I have worked on for Primetime Saturday Night #5. And as you can see here, without having the dialogue and the narration and the sound effects and everything here, you could pretty much understand and get what is actually going on with the story. I hate to say it, but one of the things that another creator by the name of Arthur Belfield used to say is like, well, art is the cheat code when it comes to comics, and it's like, well, art is not really. We would go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, arguing about that, but it's not really a cheat code. But the thing about it is that illustration help people understand the story a lot faster. Everything does not have to be told in the most pertinent minutia. People could see what is going on and understand what is going on, and then get the aspect of what is happening a lot quicker than having it in word form. Now, people would complain about this book because, Why are you doing it in 3D graphics? How come it's not pencil and paper? How come it's not drawn? Does it matter? If the story is being told correctly, does it matter if it is not hand drawn? No, it doesn't. And even if it was hand drawn, now we're going to get into art styles. It's like, why does it have to be this type of art style as opposed to another type of art style? That part doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, are you enjoying what you're seeing? Are you enjoying the story as a whole? And if you're enjoying the story as a whole, then the rest of it doesn't matter. The rest of it doesn't matter. And that's the reason I brought up these 2 pages, because I want you to see them. And both of our pages are 9 panel pages here. But you could tell without having any dialogue, you could follow along the story and understand what is actually happening and why is it happening, and just you could see like the struggle and all the other stuff that's happening throughout the story without having the dialogue. Now, the dialogue and the narration enhances the story, but you don't really have to have it if you do your story correctly. You don't have to necessarily have it throughout the whole entire time, because the imagery can sell it for you. So, with that being said, here, kind of wind down the topic here, and I hope that everybody enjoys what I was talking about here, and understand why I have to do the disclaimer, because I don't want to talk people out of not having the hobby fund itself. That's not what I'm trying to talk people out of. No, I want you to have the hobby fund itself. But if you're going to go that track or that route, I want you to be better educated about why that route is the way that it is, especially if you're going to go into the speculation of modern books or speculation as a whole. You have to understand that the speculation, especially that's being done now, will exclude you from looking at more newer books in the aspect of picking one up and hopefully finding something that you enjoy and would like to read from that point forward, because your main goal will be to pick up the books that are rarely available, that is worth a lot of money, that you could either enhance by getting them graded, getting them signed and everything, and then flipping them immediately to make money to get the next set up, the next set of books, or the next 2 or 3 books that you want to have, to be able to move that goal line further and further down until you start making sales on bigger and bigger books and making more and more money. But while doing that, you may not be able to afford to read the stories there within, to know what you're selling, to enjoy what you're selling. That's the reason why they constantly are telling you, don't always pick up books that you love. It's because of that aspect of releasing the books back to sell the books after you get it and do the CPR and stuff on it. You're going to eventually sell it. It's not going to be something that you could come back to and read over and over and over again. If you did want to read it over and over and over again, you probably have to set up something like a digital archive, for like go out there to like a Comixology or to a Global Comics, or go to all these other web resources or online resources and get digital copies of the books. You know, there's nothing wrong with reading digital copies, but that would be the only other way for you to truly enjoy the books without actually having like the physical copy in your hand anymore. But with everything being put out there on the table, I hope that you enjoyed this conversation here. And like I said, I'm not trying to belittle anybody. If you really are into having the hobby fund itself, keep going at it. I'm not saying stop. I'm just saying just beware. Beware of all the pitfalls. Beware how it hurts people like myself and other creators. Be aware of how it may jade the view of other comic collectors, and also be aware that you may not be able to bring newer people into the hobby by doing this. And it's mainly not because of your love for comics, it's just because of the method that you're using does not allow for newer people to come in without having like that bigger amount of seed money to get into it. While old school comic book collecting, collecting what you like, collecting the series and stuff that you like, finding your niche, finding the type of books that you love could afford you more entertainment in the long run. You could build up the volume of your collection, and then you could slowly move into those other aspects a little bit easier. But like I said, that's a conversation for a later date here. So I'm going to bring this topic to an end here, and I'm going to put it out there to my chat. Is there anything else that you want me to address here before I close up shop for the evening here? I think we covered a lot of stuff on this topic here. And if I offended anyone, please don't take any offense. I didn't mean anything out here to make you feel like I was calling anybody out their name or making them feel less than a collector if they were doing X, Y, and Z. That's not my intention. My intention is just to make people aware of everything surrounding this topic, not just the monetary aspect of it. What's the hump for? Why are you doing that? But you're teaching them right anyway. I'm just reinforcing what you're teaching them. They're the ones that knows how to use their little bitty piggy banks to get the books that they want. I mean, you're teaching them right. I'm just reinforcing a lot of different stuff that you've been teaching them. So, oh, what? You just felt like it. Okay, fine, fine. You felt like it. But that's the whole thing. This is what community is for. This is what a good positive community would do. We don't belittle. We always know that there's more room at the table for newer people to come in, and we try to get them to where they want to go. Just like with John Celestri coming in, just like with Aaron coming in. Now, for those who don't know that Cyclotron Squirt Gun is an actual comic book seller out here on YouTube. He does a lot of claim sales. And his claim to fame is $2 claim sales. And he has a lot of great books for sale. It surprised me that he came in today because I happened to go in and we talked about it, and he saw that I also had a YouTube channel, and it's like, and he saw some of the videos and stuff that I post and everything. And it's like, he digs it. So that's what community does. We support one another. We try to always stay positive. This is one of the reasons why I try to bring up people like Brian Gordon from Bryce Comics. He's, to me, one of the more positive people that I know that are out there trying to bring comics to a brighter light. Reggie Collects is another one. If you haven't subscribed to Reggie Collects, another individual who always tried to bring the positive aspects of comic book collecting here. I'm not gloom and doom, but I'm also going to be like, hey, don't bring the nonsense either, because I have seen all sides of it from both as a creator, as a collector, and as a reader. I've seen a lot. And it's kind of, and this is one of the things that, I'm actually kind of happy, but I don't say it too often. I'm kind of happy that Brian K. Morris gave me that nod to take over Comic Book Spectrum. And it's not because I had a YouTube channel and everything to that magnitude. It was just the simple fact that he saw that I'm not going to be that negative Nancy to be like, all comic books are bad now and this, that, and the other. It's like, no, we're going to stay positive. We're going to talk about the books that we like. And the key thing here is one of the things that I challenged them with Comic Book Spectrum when I first started back when he was in charge. Is like, hey, all you guys love horror comics. I don't. Find a horror comic that might get me into this. And they was like, looked at me strange at first, and then like, and then the light bulb hit. It's like, you know what? You're right. I need to find something that you might like, for you could be, where we could all talk about the same thing, and vice versa. I was the guy that love all these different women-led comics, and I'm up here. It's like, I don't force them on you, but it's like, try this book or try that book. That one seems fun. That one you might enjoy. That's the reason why Clyde and I get along so well, because it's like he will find something that's like, hey, Joe, I think you might like this. And I'll go out there and try. It's like, hey, yeah, I think this. Hey, Clyde, I thought about this, I thought about this book when it, that, came across my desk and everything. Maybe you should check it out too. That's the type of exchange that we as fans of comics need to start back to having, instead of, hey, I just picked up a copy of Red Room #1, and it's at a 9.8 CGC certified, and I'm about to get ready to sell it for $200. But you're not telling me about what the book is about. You're just telling me about, hey, here's a valuable book. I'm about to get ready to sell it. And I don't know if it was like, well, I don't have $200 for it, but why would I care about this book? What's good about it? I don't know. But yes, everything you said, I agree with. I mean, and that's the thing. I just wish we get back to old school. And in old school terms, we will start talking about what we like about comics more. We don't always have to talk about all the bad things. I mean, bad things are going to pop up anyway, especially when it comes to story. I mean, part of Comic Book Spectrum, we talk about bad things that we see in comics, but we do it in a more constructive manner. And when I say constructive, we're not trying to tear down or break down people's egos and stuff to that magnitude, and try to say, oh, it's all gloom and doom. We're up there, it's like, yeah, Marvel and DC needs better editors, but the story itself is fun. The story itself is doing this. We see where things are going. You know, the majority of us on Comic Book Spectrum, we are writers and creators. We understand the process. So when we say something is bad, we're going to come from it from the constructive perspective of, hey, if I was the editor on this book, this is what I would have told the creative staff. Or, hey, if I was the artist on this book, I would have done this instead of that. It would enhance the story in this way, or at least it would have seemed that it's enhanced the story in that way. We're not saying something is garbage. If something is garbage, it's garbage for a reason. We will tell you that reason, but we will say, if you like it, go ahead and buy it. We will never detract you from buying what you like. And that's the key thing. And I want Parallax to say her favorite saying each and every time somebody tries to tell her something, tries to tell her something, try to tell her to do something that she doesn't agree with. No, that's not the saying here. It's like, y'all don't know good books. I get so tired of investment sellers doing that, because when you tell me that, that's like, you have no clue what I collect. So you can't tell me what's a good book and what's a bad book. What's a good book to you could be total crap to me. Yeah, I'll say that in a heartbeat. But exactly, that's the attitude that you have to have when people are trying to tell you to not buy something that you like. I do what I want. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my real mom. Exactly. Exactly. It's like, if you love buying X-Men, you love X-Men comics, keep buying X-Men. And if you keep buying X-Men, guess what? Your job at that point is to tell people what you love about X-Men, especially modern X-Men. It's like I told people, I fell out of love with X-Men, but slowly but surely I'm coming back around to it after several creative staff. People are now slowly getting me back into X-Men, and it's still not the same from where I grew up, but there's still hope for it. There's still hope for it. Yeah, that's the line. That's the line. Yep. Unless it's spending $500 on a $30 as 500 on a Remark bag from that Remark from Liefeld bag, not the comic, the bag that the books came in. I'm still shaking my head on that one, but again, exclusive packs are as such as that. I should have kept one for myself because, like I said, I have to pay for those books anyway. I could have kept one for myself, but I didn't. I did the smart thing. I did the correct ethical thing to do. I sold all 10. They afforded me 10. I sold all 10. And out of all 10, I have only not received money from Whatnot for one pack as of right now. From the tracking, it has been shipped, it has been delivered. Whatnot has not paid me for that one pack as of yet. But all the other ones, everybody else got their stuff. It looks like everybody's happy, no complaints. Knock on wood. We're getting good reviews for what we did. I am happy that all of the X-Men 97 exclusive packs reached their destination safe and sound here. Yeah, it was better than the Krakoa crap. Yeah. Yeah, those Liefeld Dubros are fucking stupid. And again, I wouldn't call them stupid, but I also would say this: those who grew up with comics in the '90s have a hard time dealing with older comics because comics in the '90s broke the mold of how storytelling was done. Again, I still cringe at the fact of the one Ripclaw issue where you got Ripclaw jumping about to slice open his opponent, but yet he goes into a full panel soliloquy talking about how he was looking forward to the opportunity of facing him and doing all this different type of stuff and this is happening in mid jump. And we know that jumping at your opponent and slicing them only takes a few seconds. How in the world you go into like a 30-minute soliloquy in that one panel does not make sense. That's the type of stuff that happens in 90s Image comics. Is it good storytelling? Hell no. But what it did, it opened up the door for a lot of the graphical changes in the illustration. Do I agree with a lot of the illustrations that happen in a lot of the 90s comics? No. But we got some great stories out of it, out of comics in the 90s. I mean, think about it. We ended up having like Watchmen during that time. I believe V for Vendetta was late 80s going into 90s. So we had like things like V for Vendetta, Watchmen. Heck, we even got like Jim Lee X-Men during that time, which was kind of new within itself and everything to that magnitude. But yeah, no, they are stupid. You want to like it, fine, but you don't need to spend quadruple on the BS because he signed it. He's not God. Again, that's when like I said, 90s comic book collectors, especially who love like Liefeld and McFarlane and all of that, they are loyal. They are loyal beyond loyal. They will go out their way to do that. Stupid, maybe. I don't know. I'm not going to put the label as stupid, but I agree with the fact that you don't have to pay quadruple because you're holding their jockey shorts. That I do agree. Bad story, bad art, bad perspective, bad hatching, and Liefeld disease. No feet or white irises. Yeah, Watchmen v Dark Knight, all were before the '91. Yep, and we're talking about 1990 before Jim Lee X-Men. And I'm going to keep that story to for another day. Why I don't care for Spawn, but I will hand it to Todd McFarlane. At the time, he probably knew exactly why he did what he did, but I didn't care for Spawn for one particular reason and one particular reason only. Yeah, put the label. It's like I put the label. It's there, done. I'm not going to take the label away from you. That's what you do. That's what you do. I don't care if it's for Spawn because I like the idea of his power level meter. I don't like Spawn, and I'm going to put it out there in the shortest form. I don't like Spawn because, again, Liefeld never delved into the true life of Al Simmons the way that he was supposed to. Why? Because during that time, I don't think people would have loved Spawn if he would have actually talked about Al Simmons in his human form as a African American. There were short snippets here and there. There were aspects of him doing, of him and his wife and the relationship between him and his wife and painting him less than a man. But to tell his true struggles, and again, I agree with doing away with the power meter. It's just something that it to me, Spawn wasn't really Spawn. It's like Spawn to me, Al Simmons was never Spawn. Spawn was his own character. Other people, it's like anybody could have filled the role of Spawn. Al Simmons was not meant to be what the character was supposed to be. But that's me looking at the book in its whole entirety. But that's just the way that I look at it. Then they would have just threw it away for no reason. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why he never delved into the life of Al Simmons. He never delved into it. He will make mention of certain aspects, but never truly brought out the aspect of Al Simmons as being Spawn. It was just Spawn. A guy by the name of Al Simmons became this character named Spawn, and he would just Spawn from that point forward. Not really looking back at his old life, not trying to adjust to be who he is now. And then he killed him off later on in the series. I just can't get behind that. Not then as a comic book reader of the '90s, and even not now as a creator. But that's just me. Yeah, but Liefeld is under creative, lazy, and he has a shitty work after 10 years on his damn brigade. Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, the facts, numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Facts are facts. I won't delve too much more into that because it's like what it's like there's no argument against that. You know, personally, so I have heard a lot of great stories about how he is in the public's eyes, he's a great guy and all this other stuff, very friendly, does all of this other stuff here. But when it comes to the actual product, facts are facts. Exactly. It was Spawn and that's it. It's like You know, yep. Well, I also thought that issue one. It's like I also that thought that for issue 100, Spawn who battled Malbolgia so he could get the unlimited power. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's just a lot of stuff that happened in that book that again, I don't tell Spawn fans don't like Spawn. I was like, I just don't get it. I don't see the appeal of it after understanding certain key factors. And I know there's going to be people. It's like, oh, he did write a lot about Al Simmons and this, that, and the other. But it's like, did he really? Did Al Simmons go through the same hero's journey that a Peter Parker did, or a Ben Grimm did? When you think of the Thing, you don't think of just Rockman. You think of Ben Grimm. When you think of Spawn, you just think of Spawn. You don't think Al Simmons. There's a reason for that, and there's also a reason why there's been more than one Spawn. So there is a lot of credibility in what I just stated about why I don't care too much for the character. It's not solely based upon the whole nationality thing. It's just the simple fact that I wanted the character of Al Simmons to be developed in such a way where people could have relate better to Spawn's plight, especially when he had that power meter, and especially for his motivation. Yeah, in every step of the way. Yep. Oh, I figured you didn't read this. And you tell those fans of his, and they defund and they, defend him to no end. But Ethan Van Sciver was a few months late on his campaign. Everybody pooed him. Yet he was keeping us updated literally every day. Again, it's like I said, it's just the fan base. Those who are fans of these and I hate to use this term megastar, these megastar artists and creators, they are afforded a lot more liberties to mess up, to take, longer liberties with the most flimsy excuses to not do the work. Yeah, the brigade stuff eventually came out, but like you said, 10 years late. By the time that came out, you would have forgotten about that. You would be like, screw this. You would have been like, screw this, that, and the other. And oh, by the way, just because you reminded me of it, I still have not received my Axis stuff as of yet. But I reached out to the people who did that crowdfunding campaign. They said that they sent it. I'm just gonna wait for it. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad crowdfunders or anything. Stuff did get crossed in the transition between getting my information and finalizing everything. So everything's going to be okay. If I get it, I get it. If I get it, I get it. If I don't, I have the originals. So I'm not really missing out on anything. I'm just happy that somebody is relaunching AXA, at least the two issues that we got from Eclipse Comics. Yeah, it's like what gets me is that Rob is a damn polisher. He knows writers are his colors and everything. He's not a noob or solo. Like, yeah, 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 that's true. Like I said, all this is facts. You're not gonna hear me argue against it. So there is zero reason why that thing took years and years to be, to be partially fulfilled. Again, I have no argument. I have no argument. All of that is facts. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? I can't. I don't have a defense. I don't have that devil's advocate aspect of it because, for one, I don't see him having any issues other than printing and stuff. But even then, when he first did the crowdfunding campaign, we didn't have a lot of the pandemic stuff that we went through, that was decades later. That was not, I shouldn't say decades later. That was 5 to 6 years later. It shouldn't have taken that long, but it's just facts. But you tell a Liefeld Dubrow, oh, the books takes time. His books takes time. His books takes time because technically he has a lot of people ghost drawing for him, ghost drawing and ghost writing. And they're ghost drawing and ghost writing in his style. And he has final creative say so on a lot of the stuff. So if people are drawing in his style and he sees something that he doesn't like, that he poo-poos, guess what? It goes back to the drawing board. It starts, everything starts all over again. Only reason I know that is because I know somebody who had their opportunity to draw for Liefeld. Yeah, it is supposed to be a 48-page book, and he is drawing half of the panels a day. Half a panel a day. No, actually, my understanding of his company, of his publishing company, is that he has a lot of ghost artists. And when I say ghost artists, we're talking about people who draw in his art style. It's not him per se, but he has people who draw in his art style, at least pencils in his art style, and maybe some inkers that would ink in his art style. And people will submit pages, and if he likes it, it goes through. If he doesn't like it, he would either A, take the reins himself and do whatever inks or whatever that needs to be done himself, or B, he would just scrap it and have the next one down the line take over. Like you said, Dubrow's like, books takes time. It's like, no, no, it's just the way that he does his process. It's just that whole process just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, he could literally draw it himself and be done like a quarter page a day and then done in like a year. I mean, again, like I said, I'm not going to argue against anything that you said because it's facts. It's facts. But what I can also say is this: I feel that Liefeld does not have the same love for the industry like he once had. And that's one of the reasons why he's so slow. All good artists takes really long. Oh, Jack Kirby is doing Fantastic Four, Iron Man, X-Men, and 19 others. Jack Kirby was known to do what, close to like 8 to 10 pages a day. He was pumping out books, literally books, like 3 to 4 issues in a week. But again, like I said before, that's going back to, let's get back to old school. Old school would have been like, okay, if like for me, if I actually sat down and started drawing Amazonia the way that I normally draw Amazonia, my goal to hit speed wise is somewhere to be close to like penciling, try to get to maybe like 2.5, 3 pages a day. If I get 1 page a day, that means that I'm actually on schedule to make, the bare minimum deadline. But if I could get 2 to 3 pages a day, that gives me enough time to look over the pages, make whatever changes that I need to make as I'm going through the script and everything to make certain that everything is cohesive. But that's going back to old school rules. Old school rules, it's like when people sat down at drawing desk, they sat down at drawing desk and they did not break and do whatever at leisure. When they sat down, they're up here trying to do like 5 to 10 pages a day just to keep up with the schedule. because back then you wasn't just drawing one issue. You was drawing maybe 4 or 5 issues in a week. Those are was like if you did a 24-page book, you was pretty much trying to complete the book in 2 days. This is one of the reasons why they did the event, had these events about 24-hour comic book day, because rumor has it technically you should be able to pump out a 24-page book in a day if you had the right bullpen. Easy. They did it back in the days in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. Why is it in the 90s into 2000s that everything came to a crawl? It's not because of the level of talent. It's just maybe because of the work ethic. But, we're not going there. Bullpen. Oh, boy. Yeah, bullpen. Most people don't know what a true bullpen is, but back then there were dedicated creative teams, unlike today. Just like back then, you had editors. Editors did more than just copy work. And when I say copy work, they're not just, proofreading and all this other stuff. They were literally managing talent. They was managing everything about that story. If there is something that was off about that story, you have to get it past them. And if it was not good enough, you're going back to that drawing board to get it right. And if you can't get it right, it's a good possibility you're about to get ready to lose a job. But that's old school. But everybody, we're at our 2 hour mark here, so let people go here. I know that Parallax is in the East Coast, so it's about to become Sunday over there. So I want to at least give her a few minutes of her Saturday back and everything. So as I always say, live life, grow, and be well. And catch me here back next week for another episode of From the Desk of Small Press Publisher. We will I think, yeah, we do have a whatnot sale next Saturday. So there is a whatnot sale next Saturday. So we're going to have another after whatnot thoughts show. Like I said, I'm still trying to figure out that niche, that key thing where I could really truly start selling our creative owned books on whatnot. It seems like people are just not interested in newer titles or creative owned stuff on whatnot unless you know our following, our actual following who buy our books are whatnot buyers. And I can honestly say that's not the case here. But I'm going to probably put out an actual email out there to our mailing list, just a reminder that we do have the whatnot sale and all this other stuff, and let them know what was going on with the X-Men stuff, and from there. But until then, oh, hold on. I was like, the girls are still listening to you. Yep, listening. Yep. Bean says, wash your hands because you just say you don't care about washing your hands. No, that was the thing that Brian K. Morris as Parallax would say, Brainiac came MODOK. That was his line. I was purposely saying I don't care about you washing your hands because of the simple fact that during COVID, that was, well, I shouldn't say the word because that brings up flags on YouTube. Because of a certain disease, he would say, wash your hands. Now, since we are away from that time, that's why I say I don't care. It was just kind of like a spoof of what he said. It's not the fact that I don't really care. It's like, no, it's just more along the lines. It's like, I just don't care if you wash your hands, but never, and I do mean never apologize for being awesome. That was his line. It's like, He was like, do this, wash your hands, be kind to one another, and never forget. And I do mean never, never, never apologize for being awesome. And that's what you really are. That was his line. But I just paraphrase it in that way. Useless comics Tom funds all over it. Over what? Over Liefeld? Okay. Yeah, then spikes in popularity in 12. Again, he has the following, he has the clout. I mean, sometimes having clout is what it is. It's just clout. It doesn't necessarily mean that your work and stuff is the greatest. Having influence over people is a very powerful thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that your influence is going to influence people in the right direction. Beyonder. Why can't he be Brainy? Oh, it's Beyonder because he hates the Marvel Universe. I remember now. That's the reason why it's Beyonder. Beyonder came MODOK because why he's about to get ready to destroy the Marvel Universe because he hates Marvel. Okay, I remember it now. A random book like Ninja Funk. Again, that's a story for another time. Because if people want to know my aspect of Ninja Funk, I could tell you Ninja Funk and Final Boss were two books that were primarily released as exclusives on Whatnot that flopped hard in the general population of comics once it hits a actual publisher. Now, Whatnot started their own publication and everything. I was happy for that because that tells me that okay, creative owned books can have a home here. But they didn't keep the rights and privileges to Ninja Funk. The creators of Ninja Funk went to another publisher, and when they did, again, it is what it is. It went to Diamond and died. It went to Diamond and died. That's the way that I look at it. It just went to Diamond and died. But we gotta go here. It is now officially midnight where she's at here, so she's now in Sunday. And I try not to talk all night here. I do got to get some rest here. I do have other things to do tomorrow, and to be ready for work on Monday. Oh, and trust me, I'm waiting for that day where I could go ahead and retire from my 9 to 5, where I could do comics 24/7. But I'm not there yet. I'm still going to be publishing. I'm still going to be creating the books. I want to still be creating pages like I showed you earlier. But as I said earlier, live life, grow, and be well. And why now Beanie and Lil is going to make me say, trying to make me say the stuff that I say for Comic Book Spectrum that I don't say for this show. So live life, grow, and be well. And I see you next week right here on Comic Book Spectrum. And we're about to be out of here. Come play with us, Uncle. Yeah, they're creepy as hell. Shining Twin. All right. Well, I catch you guys next week here, and we're out of here. So, adios. Have a good one.